Hello, welcome to Marketing Strategy and the Process of Planning. Before, we discussed the needs of consumers, and we were talking about that the company wants to satisfy these needs and to do it better than competition. So here we're going to discuss how it is actually done. So we will talk about understanding the marketing place. We will talk about understanding consumer needs and wants. We're going to talk about creating a strategy that will fulfill those needs and wants better than competition. And we will talk about the concept of value and the concept of loyalty, which has to do with building relationship with consumers. Let's start with an example. Henry Ford in the 1900s had his Model T car. And he said his classic saying was, "You can get it in any color you want as long as it is black." What did he actually mean by that? So Ford relied on fulfilling the basic need of transportation. So the idea of getting people from one place to another, cheaper and better than competition. Now, if you think about it, who was the competition at the time? There were very few other car manufacturers, so it was mainly the horse and the carriage, maybe some trains, maybe even walking. So Ford was trying to think what could be the competitive advantage that he can have over the horse and carriage, for example. And he understood that in order for a lot of people to buy cars, he has to reduce the price of the car. And he assumed that people don't really care about the color or the look of the car at that time, but they care more about the fact that the car is cheap and affordable. So in that sense, yes, he was able to fulfill consumer needs. By being able to produce the car only in black, he was actually taking advantage of the assembly line, making sure that it's not going to cost so much to make a car. Now, at the time, that was what the market demanded, and that was why there was a market fit. They wanted transportation, didn't really care about how it looked, and they wanted it relatively in a cheaper price so they can afford it. However, one of the problems with markets is that they keep changing all the time. And this is one of the challenges that we face as marketers, because the marketing environment keeps changing, the economy, the culture, technology, and because of that, consumer needs also keep changing. So what worked in the 1900s might not necessarily work later on in the 1920s or the 1930s. And part of it is also because there's also new competitors coming in, which are also trying to offer a competitive advantage. So let's see what happened in the case of Ford. So in the case of Ford, around 1927, the market started to change. Now, Ford didn't understand that the market changed. So Ford continued, the company continued to focus on the idea of mass production. And by doing that, they actually gave up the flexibility. And they had what is called inertia, which is something we don't like in marketing because it means that you cannot proceed and that you cannot change yourself based on the environment. However, the company that did realize that change was coming was GM. And GM responded first to this change. And the change was that now consumers did want to have cars that are unique. They wanted to be different than others. So they wanted cars in different colors or maybe different models. And unfortunately for Ford, by 1940s, GM gained market share from 20% to 50%, while Ford market share fell from 50% to 20%. So the conclusion is that one has to scan the environment all the time. However, before we discuss the marketing environment, let's clarify some of the terms that we use so far. So one of the things that we want to totally make sure we understand are needs, wants, and demands. Needs is when you feel that you are deprived of something. There is a discrepancy between your current state, meaning where I am now, and where I want to be, which is the desired state. A want, on the other hand, is derived from the need in the sense of what would the culture say would be a good way for me to fulfill that need, as well as my own personality. So, for example, if I want to go to a party and I want to be dressed nicely, that will be a need. I need to be dressed nicely. However, whether that nicely will be a suit or will be a skirt or will be a dress will depend on what is considered nice in that culture. Now, a demand is when I can actually pay for what I want. So yes, maybe I want to have a Gucci bag, but if I can't afford it, then from the company's perspective, I don't have that want because I can't actually back it up by increasing demand for that product. So let's see another example. I'm hungry, okay? Hunger obviously is a very basic need. We all experience it at some point. And I need to eat. But how do I decide what I want to eat? So one of the questions will be, well, how much money can I spend on what I eat? Can I spend $50, $100, $10? And then how I choose to satisfy my need will depend on what I actually want to eat right now. Maybe I feel like I want to have a heavy meal, a warm meal, a salad. So all of these have to come into consideration when I make the decision to satisfy my need. The next concept that I want to discuss is value and satisfaction. So what is value? Value is when a consumer evaluates the benefits as compared to the cost. Now, the cost obviously can be price, but it can also be other things like the time it takes me to get the product, for example, if I buy something online, or the length of time that I have to travel, or maybe how much obstacles I have in my way in order to get it. And the benefit needs to outweigh the cost in order for that product to have a value. So how do we actually measure value? So every product we can describe in what we call terms of attributes, benefits, costs, and hence as a result, value. So an attribute is the objective features of the product. So for example, when I have this jacket on, the objective feature is that it is made of a specific type of cloth, and that it is on me, fits me, and that, let's say, it keeps me warm. So that will be an objective feature. Anybody who sees that jacket will understand that this is the attribute of the jacket. Benefits, on the other hand, are derived from these features. So for example, the benefit of me being warm might be stronger for me because maybe I'm sensitive to the cold or maybe I get sick very easily, as compared to someone else who might actually prefer the look over the heat. So their benefit will be from how the jacket looks and not necessarily from how much they keep us warm. And then we have the cost. And the costs are derived from the features, meaning how much does it cost for a jacket to look as nice? How much does it cost the jacket to be as warm? How much does it cost to have a jacket that fits you exactly? And so forth. So value is when I take the benefits, not the attributes, but the benefits, minus the cost. And that will give me the value. So if I have a jacket that keeps me very warm, and this is the benefit that I'm looking for, and it's relatively not expensive, then it will be a valuable jacket for me. However, if I don't care so much about the heat, but I do care about how it looks, and I don't think that it looks that good, then for me, it will not be as valuable, and I might not want to spend the amount of price that the company is charging. So let's do an example with a very basic and simple product, which is a potato chips. So first, let's look at the positive features. So the attributes that the potato chips might have, again, objective, anybody who sees a potato chips can talk about those, is maybe the flavor, the taste, maybe the texture in the sense of whether it's crunchy or not, and maybe the level of energy that it gives because it is a type of food. But then what are the benefits that we get from the flavor or the benefits that we get from the taste? So for some, it can be just pure enjoyment, just pleasure. I enjoy eating something that tastes good. So that is my benefit. Someone else maybe was hungry and they had it as a snack, and now they are fully energized. So for them, that was the benefit. Could be both. Could be that I enjoyed something that made me more energized. And then what would be the value then? So what is the value of eating something that you like? It makes me happy. It comforts me. What could be some negative attributes, though, of potato chips? So, for example, again, objectively, it has high calories. It has high fat. Might have some artificial ingredients. Now, why is that an issue? What could be the negative benefits of it? That it's unhealthy, that maybe it will make me gain weight, maybe I won't be attractive. Now, again, for some people, it's more of a concern. For some people, it's less. Hence, the value, if we talk about negative, could be that as a result, I have a negative self-esteem because I feel like I'm overweight. Maybe in the long term, I will have some health issues like high blood pressure. And then the question is, would you buy potato chips or not? So how can we tell? So if you're a consumer where the value is really to feel comfort and to feel happy, and it outweighs the idea of maybe having negative self-esteem or health issues, then you will buy the potato chips. However, if you say, well, yeah, I know I'm going to enjoy it right now and be happy, but later on I might develop some blood pressure issues, then you will make the decision not to buy it. And what the company needs to know is what type of consumer you are. And obviously, if you're a potato chips company, you will market it for those who will outweigh happiness over unhealthy consequences in the future. So, how is value then connected to satisfaction? Let's see. Okay, this is... So satisfaction reflects consumer evaluation of a product performance. So what is my expectations? So for example, let's take again the hunger. So let's say I'm hungry and I'm stopping at a fast food restaurant. Now my expectations are that it's going to be relatively cheap, so that's the cost, and maybe not as tasty, but it will suffice in the sense of closing my hunger. So in that sense, my expectations of how good the food will taste are not very high. So as long as the price makes sense and the food is edible, then I will be happy with it. However, if I'm going to, let's say, a high-end restaurant that, let's say, serves steaks, my expectation that the food is going to be very good, even though it might be more costly. Hence, if the food is not good, I'm not going to be satisfied, even though at the fast food restaurant, I was totally satisfied. So the idea is to make sure that the level of satisfaction has to do with the level of expectations the company promise. So as long as the company promises you what it delivers, then you will be satisfied. If it exceeds expectation, that will be even better. But you don't want to promise consumers one thing, and then when they actually get it, it's not what was promised to them, because then they will be disappointed and not satisfied. Yeah.